The Shooting Range. Hello, friends. This is Andrew. You might already know that Bruce got sick and had to be admitted to a COVID hospital. We all want him to recover as quickly as possible. In the meantime, I'm going to sub for him. December's coming to an end, which means you're watching the final episode of The Shooting Range in 2021. We have a nice little tradition where we make a review at the end of the year, summing up War Thunder changes big and small, together with you. Make yourselves comfortable. In this episode, technologies and game mechanics, a tour around new locations, and the landmark metal beasts. The very first update of 2021 introduced a whole new line of South African vehicles to the game. It included the wheeled Rattel IFVs with various combat modules, the fun Sark APCs, the speedy Ruicats, and even MBTs, the Oliphant and the TTD. Meanwhile, the skies welcomed the Su-9 and the Su-11 that many players love for their ground attack capabilities, as well as the Su-17, the first variable sweep wing aircraft in the game. The American and the French hangars received the carrier-based F-8 Crusaders, and these fighters too have an unusual wing, although instead of variable sweep, they have variable incidence. Another highlight is a whole family of light F-5 Freedom Fighters. You can guess the nation, right? These nimble machines show excellent performance even against heavy opponents, full of advanced electronic devices and auxiliary systems. Opponents like the legendary Soviet variable sweep wing interceptor, the MiG-23M, added with the hot summer update Red Skies. By autumn, however, it had to pass its top Soviet fighter spot to an even more powerful modification, the MLD. More than that, these fearsome warriors have ground attack versions as well. The MiG-27 modifications M and K showed the ground vehicles what truly capable cannons mean. Together with the British and the French Jaguars, the American Corsairs, and many other aircraft, they received high-precision weaponry. And of course, new top aircraft were added to other nations as well. The American, German, and Japanese Phantoms, the Italian F-104G, the Chinese J-7E, the Swedish Viggen, the French Mirage 3E and 5F, all of these planes performed their in-game maiden flights in 2021. The recent Winged Lions update added a whole new competitor in the battle for air superiority, Israel. Its planes look familiar, but they have a few unique features as well. The Spitfires, Meteors, Mystères, Vautours, Skyhawks, Top Phantoms, and the deeply modernized Mirage planes are all worthy opponents in the skies. But the ground forces got their own new tops. The Abrams HC, the Leopard PL, the Leclerc S-21, and the Challenger 2 TES, the T-80 BVM, and the ZTZ 99-3, and of course, the long-awaited Japanese Type 10. And how many little dart guns did the game receive this year? The improved American Bradley, the Italian Dardo, the Japanese Type 87 RCV, the Swedish STRF 9040B, those are perfect machines for rapid flanking attacks. The Navy was upgraded too. In 2021, captains received reinforcements in the form of more than 30 various vessels. The list of the most impressive ones include the SMS Kaiser, the USS Wyoming, the Dante Alighieri, the Parizhskaya Kommuna, and the HMS Marlborough battleships, as well as Scharnhorst battlecruisers. Whew, so many good vehicles. And all of that in 1 year. But how about some history? Meaning the history of the new War Thunder technologies and game mechanics in 2021. War Thunder is under constant development. We're constantly perfecting the engine, graphics, sounds, and game mechanics. Let's see what we've done this year. The spring update brought windscreen indicators for top aircraft. This high-tech helper brings the most relevant information in front of the pilot's eyes, which improves their combat performance since they don't have to look down. And while this addition was mostly useful to fans of simulator battles, chaff made every War Thunder pilot a little happier. It's a simple solution that allows you to dodge radar-guided missiles and prevent SAMs from locking onto you. The very same update also made nuclear weapons available for realistic battles. We'd introduced the weapon itself back in 2020. However, we redesigned the nuclear blast effect in early summer. With ultra-quality settings, you can see the shockwave pushing and damaging every little bush the designers spent so much time on. Well, even so, they admit that they admire its destructive beauty. The summer update also added commander sights for tankers, moving the rangefinders and NVDs out of binoculars. Some tanks were allowed to shoot their main gun even without the gunner. The fire control system was updated too, namely the laser rangefinders. As soon as the distance is calculated, the computer sets the vertical lead both in simulator and realistic modes. Teamwork capabilities have been improved as well. Light tanks can now help allies with extinguishing fires, and all squad mates can help each other no matter what vehicle they have. In naval battles, you can now follow the rounds you send with your camera. It offers a stunning view, and an opportunity to improve your accuracy and correct the lead faster. We've also reworked the fire control system, aiming, fire direction, and target designation. To make it more comfortable to control, we've also changed the naval UI. September brought along another update, Direct Hit, and its main highlight for tankers was a brand new test drive. Different ground types varying from asphalt roads to riverbeds help you to better understand a vehicle's dynamics, and targets now respawn in a few seconds after being destroyed to give you more fire practice. Still, the true humdinger mechanic of last autumn was the ground shaping. It introduced a whole range of new tactics, from simple fortifications to huge drawings in War Thunder ground maps. The craters left by the 5-ton bomb received so much attention. By the way, have you tried to check how many tanks it can fit? The hangar screen was upgraded too. A new feature, the protection analysis, highlights vulnerable areas on tank armors, accounting for the round chosen, the distance, and the angle of attack. Finally, the last update of this year added naval reconnaissance planes. Now players can take off to the skies right off the deck of their own ship to study the surroundings or even capture a point. Now, how could we ignore the graphics? We've been working hard on the visuals all year long. Effects for each and every type of weapon hitting all kinds of surfaces have been changed. New fumes, smokes, explosions, sparks, traces, splashes, contrails, flares, and many more. NVIDIA DLSS was updated too, as well as reflections on aircraft mirrors. And most recently, the winds started blowing in the game. And now let's take a break from all these tanks, planes, vessels, and complicated mechanics. Let's just enjoy the locations added to the game in 2021. Cue the splash screen. We'll start with Seversk 13, a military town that became a battlefield for aircraft and ground vehicles. In its center, we can find some Soviet panel housing, garage lines, a dilapidated recreation center, administrative buildings, and a few small stores. The eastern part greets players with a long embankment. To the left of the city, we see a highway, and next to it, some village houses among lush trees and hills. And now we're leaving the 1970s Soviet architecture for a hot desert. The red sand map is an enormous sandy plateau surrounded by dunes, rocks, and sand drifts inspired by the landscapes of northern and central Africa, and especially by the Ennedi Plateau in Chad. There's a small river that begins in the center of the map and quickly dries up under the sun. Its waters can only support a few palm oases and large, solemn acacia trees. Let's move on to the narrow European streets of Breslau. This one is inspired by the historical World War II siege of the Breslau fortress by the Soviet Army. The Oder River basically splits the city into halves. Open parks, squares, embankments, and wide streets are mixed in with narrow crossings and tight little yards. After enjoying the landscapes of the past, we'd like to show you some futuristic views. The spaceport map, originally created for the April 1st event called Warfare 2077, was made available for mixed battles with the Direct Hit update. This modern cityscape is surrounded by endless sand dunes with overpasses above the ground and a spaceship launching pad seen on the horizon. The Aral Sea is another unusual map. A ghost town with numerous shipwrecks and an abandoned village offers a curious, if a bit sad, sight. The desert pushed life out of this place, but it can't help against heated battles of aircraft and ground vehicles. Volokholamsk isn't a new map, but it took some time off accompanied by our designers, and it looks like you missed one of the oldest locations in the game. Well, we did our job with it, corrected the landscapes where it harmed the balance, checked some trees, and polished it enough to meet the contemporary quality standards. Hope you like it. We've also improved the choice of air locations. One of the most picturesque arcade maps now is Bourbon Island, inspired by real-life Reunion Island found in the Indian Ocean. Mountain ranges, sharp pikes, deep canyons, wide valleys, and even a waterfall. You could easily forget about the battle and just enjoy the view. Israel is another map for air battles. A square with a side of 128 kilometers, this location provides enough space even for the fastest aircraft. We took inspiration from an area near the borders of Israel, Lebanon, and Syria. This place is pretty hilly, and the rare flat areas house extensive crop fields. The Drowned City was made specifically for the coastal fleet battles. It features a cargo terminal, overpasses, and a business center in the style of a coastal Asian city, all submerged. A small boat can easily find a lot of cover in this chaos. Another coastal fleet location is the Vyborg Bay, inspired by the northern climate of Mediansky Bay. Here we have a thick maze of forested rocky islands, a great place for battles between small and agile boats. Well, this is what 2021 felt like for War Thunder. Tell us in the comments what changes impressed you the most. Meanwhile, it's time we gave you our last answers this year. The first question was sent by a player called Felipe Diaz. How can I know if the airplane has a ballistic computer, and how do I turn it on and off? Hello, Felipe. You can check what rounds your aircraft has a ballistic computer for right in the hangar by pointing your cursor at the pilot in X-ray mode. Controlling the computer is pretty handy if you use the multifunctional menu. The default key for it is Y. AMX30 B2 Brenus asks, where are the controls for cruise control of tanks? Bonjour, Monsieur Brenus. You can find them by going to Controls, Ground Vehicles, Movement. Another question comes from Karam D. What's that metal rod under the Panzer gun? Hi there, Karam. It's a highly specialized piece of tech that helps bend the antenna when the turret rotates. This is a duck, writes. Is it just me, or does the Crusader look exactly like the Corsair 2? I can't tell them apart. Hey, Duck. It's not just you, they are very similar. And that's unsurprising if you remember that the Corsair 2 was based on the Crusader. Still, it's easy to tell which one is which. The F-8 has a much longer fuselage, and its wing has variable incidence. And the last comment for today was written by Jandax99. I wanted to ask, how can I use the thrust reverser and the brakes at the same time on the Viggen? Hi there, Jandax. To solve that issue, go to Controls, Aircraft, Full Reel Controls, Mechanization, and assign the keys for left brake and right brake. Don't forget to switch back to mouse aim mode before you perform a test flight. Now you can brake without reducing thrust. That's it for today, friends. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment. Stay safe and Happy New Year! The next episode will premiere in 2022 on the 2nd of January at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. We hope that Bruce will recover by that time, and if it takes longer, I'll sub a couple more times. Oh, and by the way, he left a message for you all.
I'm feeling great, and if you can pass this on to all viewers, particularly those who've sent very positive, loving comments, which I really appreciate. Things for me are looking up. Everything else seems to be mending fairly well. Most of the doctors are giving me thumbs up. Keep your fingers crossed and your toes crossed and everything else. Bye-bye for now.